अच्छा वो लगाएगा, ये तुम्हारा है, ये मेरा है. ओके. फोटो लेने से पहले बोलना रहे, पेट अंदर लेना है मुझे. All right. Okay, good afternoon, everybody, or good evening. It's a pleasure to have with us Professor Tony Quek, who is going to give us the Institute Colloquium. He's going to talk about my personal research experience and research pathway. Dr. Quek received the BE and ME degrees in electrical and electronics engineering from the Tokyo Institute of Technology. And he also got his PhD from the Electrical Engineering and Computer Science Department at MIT. Currently, he's the Cheng Tsang Man Chair Professor with the Singapore University of Technology and Design, commonly known as SUTD, and the ST Engineering Distinguished Professor. He also serves as the Director of the Future Communication R&D Program. He's the head of the ISTD pillar and also the head of the AI on RAN working group chair in the AI RAN Alliance. For those of you who are not familiar with, RAN is a Radio Access Network Alliance, which is sort of expected to revolutionize the way in which cellular communication is going to happen. And Dr. Quek is heading the AI wing of that alliance. His current research topics include wireless communications and networking, network intelligence, non-terrestrial networks, open radio access networks, and also 6G. Dr. Quek has been actively involved in organizing and chairing sessions and has served as a PPC member in numerous international conferences. He is currently serving as an area editor for one of the flagship journals of the IEEE Communication Society called the IEEE Transactions on Wireless Communications. He has won several prizes starting 2008 when he won the Philip Yeo Prize for Outstanding Achievement in Research, the William R. Bennett Prize in 2012, the SUTD Outstanding Education Awards in 2015, and since then, almost every year there has been one prize, which I'm not going to list out all of them. And the latest one is, of course, the IIT Bombay International Award for Excellence in Research in Engineering and Technology. He's an IEEE, Dr. Quek is an IEEE fellow, a fellow of the WWRF, and also the fellow of the Academy of Engineering in Singapore. Dr. Quek, it's a pleasure to have you with us, and we look forward to hearing about the personal research experience and research pathway. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for the kind introduction. So it's a pleasure to be. Okay. Maybe it's a. Sorry, I just want to make it higher. Okay.
Yeah, I think we can hear you.
You can hear?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's a pleasure to be here. It's my first time to be visit India and IIT Bombay, and also thanks to the organizer and also the university for the kind award. So initially, I wanted to talk more about a particular area of my research, but I thought it's also good because the students to share the overall journey. Particularly, I think it's good because of the whole landscape changing and this geopolitical situation that we are facing. So I just want to share some of the experience. I hope it will be useful actually for colleagues and also students. So I just want to start. This is a book that I read when I was in a college or high school. So this is a very famous author. So he writes a lot of books. So there's a quote that actually it drives the way I make decisions. Right, it says that it takes a lot of courage to release the familiar and seemingly secure to embrace the new. Right, so you need courage to try to do something which is new, because always we want to just do something we are very comfortable. But because we feel that there's really secure in doing something familiar, but what he's saying is that there's no real security in what is no longer meaningful, because the problem of defining meaning now is very difficult for us. In a sense, a lot of things change so fast, and meaning has a lot of implication. And there's more security in adventurous and exciting for in movement there's life, in change there's power. And what part of it, why we are trying to drive this AI RAN alliance, because we believe that with AI, the whole RAN and architecture will change in the future. So I think that's what we are trying to do. And on top, usually we are professors. This is additional time to the standard. So I just want to go a very quick background where I'm a local Singaporean. So this is where high school. graduated, then I graduated college. I was on a scholarship, so that's why I was in Japan. It was a scholarship from the government. The whole purpose is to send you overseas, experience, and eventually come back to serve the government, whether it's ministry, because Japan is actually related to, it could be foreign ministry or other. So also I was doing tech, TI tech. Then eventually I come back, I just want to move a pathway of doing research. So eventually I got another scholarship, also from government, to go to MIT. Essentially, the whole purpose is I wanted to do a different flavor. What I did in Japan is very west, it's very east, so we want to do something very different, which is in MIT. Then I went back to Singapore to work in a research institute. This is it's like a national institute. It's called Institute for Infocom Research for a few years to have some of this industry, a bit of public research. Before I jumped to this new university in 2012, as you know, Singapore, there's top university, NUS, NTU. But I wanted to go to a startup, which is a university first before I do a startup. So I wanted to do something different. I thought a new environment will allow me to do that. So this is basically my adventure. So I just want to share some of the experience. Just if you're a faculty, you'll be bored with this. But I just want to feel a few basic skill set, particularly for students and if you're at early stage. That what I really learned about this relationship. Of course, this relationship is a relationship with your advisor, but it could be a relationship with your superior, whether your work or eventually a career. That usually, a lot of times, everybody is very busy. I meet my advisor, try to be weekly, as long as he come to office. Sometimes it's not, it's very busy traveling. But always, you want to prepare for your meetings every time. Everybody has finite time. And actually what you actually need to prepare what you want to ask and what you need to answer. So that you come for every meetings is really prepared. I think that is important. If not going to a meeting and waiting for answer, I think that's not what we want to do. A lesson I learned very well is actually I always email my advisor a meeting summary to avoid misunderstanding. Right, I'm not an American. I don't speak. I mean, I'm Singaporean, but there's still misunderstanding in what he thinks and what you should do, and that a lot of times has a lot of misunderstanding when you see a lot of relationship. And I think that is something I learned. That let's clarify. I always email. Is that the right understanding? Another thing is we learn everybody has finite time, so people only allocate time if you have results. So in information theory, we have this water filling, right? We only allocate to where the maximum output comes. It's all these advisors, superior is the same. So we want to actually get the attention. So that's where we wanted to do. Learn to communicate with your advisor, be respectful, but be straight. So this is something we learn, but always be proactive. I think proactive is the term, and to take the initiative. So this is something that is usually what I've been, it's my working plan. So it's something I pass to all my students. Then eventually I tell them, this is where we'll guide you, even you go to work, right? So this may not apply to everybody, but a lot of things I try to explain is about all this GPA, even our current students, trying to perfect your GPA isn't that most important. I don't know about the India case, but essentially it's about what you have done, the reference letter, the competition they are involved, the quality of work you have done. So I think that's the key part instead of the exam crank result. A lot of times people try to do fast, right? A lot of times, especially the newer generation, you try to graduate fast. The whole purpose of whole education is to ensure that you have a rich experience. So the rich experience could be overseas visit, overseas internship. So I want to make sure with the students or even myself, during even my PhD time, I did a few internships. I did one in Docomo when I was at MIT. So I went back Japan to work in a telco for over the summer, try to understand how does telco work. So it will slow down in your research. But I think it's always important because you don't know what additional experience or insight you can get out of it. Right. So I think that's very important where time may not be a factor. And a lot of times when we think about we have a whole life, this time could be short term, but on average, it's actually minimum. So I think that's one. Another thing is a lot of times people say, you attend conference, you take out a lot of time because you travel, right? A lot of time you have to know your own field, build your network, build your community. Building your community is essentially important because I think especially for the future problems, a lot of problems you may not be able to solve within your skill set. There's some problems that is multidisciplinary. You require people from skill set. You want to listen to talks, learn new areas from other people. So especially at least when I'm students at time, a lot of times we attend different conference where you're familiar, your comms, but also go to like for ICML or AAAI, but you have to publish over there. And the whole goal is to establish your own network when you're a student. Learn that how do you build that relationship skill set. I think that's where as a graduate you want to actually learn doing that. So there's a few things. So this is I think there are IEEE advices, technical writing you can get you can download from IEEE Explore, especially for writing. Writing is essentially very important because it's one way to convey. Of course, now you have ChatGPT type, but these are some of the things you want to learn, do's and don'ts. But then always need to have master how to actually convey clear, concise, convey the ideas to readers with least possible time, space, and math. It's not about lengthy math. It's about the concise concept, right? What you want to convey at the end. So I think the message is very important. Consistency is always important. Notations, format, the whole concept, and already try to understand why the problem is interesting and what you have done compared to others. That's the first thing you want to understand for all the research. It should not be based on what people have done because they have done this, I do an extension. That is not a valid reason. It goes to the fundamental, trying to understand why it's interesting. Motivate. If you don't have that motivation, because that's important. Once you're able to find that skill set will be with you because the areas change so much. Once you have that insight, then you're able to find the right problems. I think that's what you want to master while you're a grad student or early career. Then you actually will help you to find the right problems in the future. So technical talk, I think I briefly explain. Right, define your message depending on audience. Prepare well for the content, prepare for slides, and learn by practice of observations and so on. So I think the slides I can share with you are not bought with this technical talk. But then that is basic skill set that should every master as a grad student. But then I want to share what I really learned different parts when I'm experienced at the PhD at MIT and then subsequently back in Singapore. Right, a misconception I think is that how could I do anything without knowing everything that has already been done? A lot of times when we want to go to a new area, we say we have to read a lot. We have to read all the papers. So we bought a lot of time with a lot of reading. I think the lesson learned even after so many years also at MIT is that no one knows everything, even your advisor, and you don't have to. Right, I think it's always important when you do new area is to pick up what you needed to know as you went along. So this is really a lesson learned that one of the professors really explained. It's like swimming. You don't know how to swim, so you throw into the swimming pool. You sink or you swim. So that is a lesson, especially in all this new area where there's an intersection between your theory and the system building. So this you have to try, error, and build, and understand the theory at the same time. Where in this generation that I think it perfectly fits. You're going to read and learn continuously throughout your career. It's a different generation, and I think so I just want to share you will be a sink or swim culture as you move along. We should work on a research area where the foundation is well known. It really depends. It's a bias depending on where you come from. For what I usually wanted to do, I wanted to go where the area looks like a mess. right? That's where the action is. So this is where I sometimes choose topic. When some of these areas are very well defined, then the one thing I'm worried is that the amount of effort I put in and the amount of outcome I get is it could be epsilon. Sometimes areas that are messy, like for example, how do you look at AI and radio access network? Right, when it's going to be messy. We see now you have many algorithms going on, perform well here in this case, and that. How do you benchmark? How would the architecture change? It's a very messy area. So that's where it's attractive because there's a lot of creative work that could be done, whether from a perspective of academic research or you think about a startup. Sometimes you go to all this messy area. So when you go back to this swimming concept, right? So I mean, this is just for this analogy. I'm not saying that if you're while you're swimming and you're not sinking, you aim for hard water, rough water. I mean, this is referring to this. I'm not asking you to actually, because you'll get drowned, right, in perfect. But it's actually to challenge yourself to able to, through all this mess, form a pathway. Because a lot of times when you do research, it's about the pathway. If you can lead the pathway of this mess, you leave the impact over so that subsequent people can build upon that. So I think that's what, which is sort of a motto when you look at areas where you pick upon. Then always my aim is to learn something new to teach my advisor or because they may not know everything. So this is where one of the rule of thumb of choosing a topic. It's really biased depending on the different style. At least for my style, I have been trying to do that, trying to look at all this messy area and see how I can make impact. Right. Another thing is, it's not right to waste your time all doing it. So why I say that? Right, because even this was prepared many long time ago. But I still think, even at MIT days, I still feel so in the real world, it's really hard to know which problems are important. And sometimes you never know whether it's solvable, especially some of these areas currently now. So to be creative, you may end up wasting most of the time of not being creative. So what I mean is that a lot of times, while being creative, we may have to go into another community to understand some of the work that maybe able to bring into solving mine. So you could waste a lot of time, but at the end, there's no outcome, but you never know. That whole process may end up giving you a tool that you'll be useful down the road. So I think there's always a trade-off. So you need to learn to forgive yourself for wasting time, because you will have to waste some of this time when you do looks outside. Then that's where the creativity comes. Right. Research is not about just creating new things, and we do not need to understand old stuff. So this is a misconception. What I always believe is that in each our own field, it's always to understand the history of our own branch of science and science in general. Right, a lot of problems that we have seen, even now or the future, you will see glimpses of it in the past. Right, even all this AI model or all this, it's a very hot topic now. We talk about semantic communications. They are looking at bringing what Shannon has talked about in 1942, recreating this whole concept. It's actually a branch of science that has been talked about in the 40s. So you want to understand the background, why this is done, why there's a constraint, why it come back. So understanding its history is important, and also some of these results. Some of these results could be used. For example, even the joint source channel coding, when you think about all this, when they applied this for semantic communication, all this result is part of this joint source channel coding, where when you look at it, why the neural network has optimal result, because even the source is non-Gaussian. I use the neural network, make it Gaussian, so it's optimal. So it goes back to the history that, you understand that, and you look at all these results. So it's always really important. It's not about throwing everything away. Understanding that history is always important, because you can actually benefit unexpectedly from the past. Because at the end, your work in science is just part of history for the future generation. Right. So that's basically very high level. Then we go down to the details. Well, I call it research 102. Right. So this is a research process that I went through. 1 + 1 = 3. So this was when I was MIT. I will have this research examination besides the paper examination. So the chair was Alan Oppenheim. Alan Oppenheim was a very famous, the textbook, signals processing, discrete time processing. So at the time, he has a famous quote. He always said, 1 + 1 = 3. So he says that the problem he gave to his student, can it be 1 + 1 = 3? It's unconventional. Right? He says that you pose your problem into a very, can it come up with some unexpected type of result? So I'll give you some example. Right? So the whole idea is, can you explore ideas out of conventional direction? And how do you make 1 + 1 = 3? So some examples. Some examples we've seen in the past of history, especially in our area. Shannon's, when they look at channel capacity at that time, when you think about at that time where everybody used repetition code, right? At that time, the way we think you can communicate reliability is to transmit more. Right? Keep on transmitting the same information. At the end, the receiver will actually understand it. This, right? It's human way of looking at it. Just like when you have a kids, you want to tell your son or daughter to do something, you keep on repeating it. Right? So that's but then Shannon looked at it, then there has to be some fundamental limit when they came up with Shannon capacity. That's one way of looking at. Keep look at cooperative diversity, especially insight from relay channel, but then bring the domain of cellular. Right. So that's another way. Then Bahid on space-time coding, cognitive behavior. So there's some example in our area where they bring unconventional thinking into the area. So can your research do that? Right? If you pose at that can bring it into a whole new direction. So that is one way. There is an expectation. The next thing is understand your problem. Once you have that, always is understanding our problem very well. Right? I think the students here are top students, the faculty are top. I think this is I think it's everybody knows. So you want to understand what is unknown, the data, the condition, when you can satisfy the condition. So these are all basic things you need to understand. And I think what's most important is this concept, especially in the information theory community. We always think about simplicity, a figure. Can you draw a figure to understand your system, your problem, what you're trying to do? A simple notation. How do you separate the parts in the condition, write out that, and start with the toy problem? I think that's this whole concept of trying to make it simple, simplified understanding is fundamentally important to understand your problem. So we understand all whole constraint well. The next, when you start to do, is actually the devil is in the details. So, right, another way, this is particularly for students, right? A lot of times when you want to do is that, like, can the problem map into some problem set that we've seen in the course? So this is very entry level. Then, and how do you, so the subsequent step is how do you actually stay focused on a problem and be open-minded, creative. And a lot of times when we were doing research at that time, especially at MIT, we usually have two problems. One is the primary problem, secondary problem. So when we start with a primary problem, we usually put out the primary problem, we go to the secondary problem, which is unrelated. So basically this is to clear up, do something else, so that when you come back, you have some insight, right? So I think this is some lesson learned that we have actually gone through, and always devising a plan. So it's not just for research, but I think it's also important for the younger generation. Because this age has so many information. We are doing so many things at the same time. Always leave time to plan. Leave time to understanding your projection of a plan for research, your career, what you want to do, what is the best, prioritize your thing. Planning, learn to plan. I think this is absolutely essentially for your career. So this is planning with respect to your research, but this plan can apply to basically your career and so on. Right? So this is planning to solve the problem, and how do you do that? Right. Then carry out the plan. So once you have the plan, then
you want to carry out a plan, check each step, make sure you can solve it, check the results. So this is basically carrying out research plans, which is pretty obvious through the tunnel. Then it's always important to publish, right? For any good work, it has to be a complete work. You can do many things, but if everything is half completed, then it's useless. Always has to be. It could be a form that is accessible to peers. You want to be in an archive, or you want to present your work in conference, and it's important to be actually be scrutinized by the community across, right? So always be humble, stay humble, and it's very important. So after you complete your work, you should ask yourself, right? Did I think creatively? Do I challenge myself? Do I gain confidence in tech, intellectually, so that every work you complete, you move to the next stage, so that you can build upon your experience, so that you can do much more solid work after that, right? So this is what basically in MIT the overall lesson learned that I've gone through over there. Just so I moved after that I came back to Singapore because I was funded by the Singapore government. They were required to come back. If not, you pay a huge sum of money, which my parents will not be able to pay. So coming back to Singapore. So building up your own group, right? So I think building up a group and building a company is the same. It goes back to the philosophy, right? What is the philosophy you want in your own group? What are the kinds of problems you want them to solve? Is it a specific problems with clear objective? That problems that you've seen people have published, but then you want to tweak it? Or some group only want to solve open problems, right? In MIT, especially in Leeds, there's a famous professor who only solve open problems, like interference channel, and he's a very famous Indian professor, right? Such Sanjay, he's all very difficult problems, right? So there's a philosophy. There are also groups that want to find solutions in search of problems. So there are groups that are very strong in algorithms, optimization. So they have tools of optimization they apply to different areas. So that is also one philosophy. There's also some group that you see around the world that they just do extension. So they publish numbers, but not impact. So it really depends on the philosophy, what you want to do, right? And then you can find the right group you build on your student, and make sure the chemistry and the style of research team well match and sync, right? So you select your team members very carefully, particularly the first PhD students that I select that will lead, will guide, will be the standard for the group. So have to devise a strategy to, and for this research funding, right? Build a family instead of a factory. So this is really a lesson learned that I, from MIT when I left. So a lot of professors say that you actually have to build a family instead of a factory. It's not the number of students. So I don't take any PhD students anymore. I stopped already because I have so much time. I'm very busy with other things, so I cannot take care of the students. So so I'm not taking any PhD students. Most of them are postdoc, right? Right. Then as a faculty, so there's a few research career advice, right? So some want to be the leading expert. So there's a danger. So I want to share why. Right. I think it's always important to solve a problem that others think is important. Okay, this is bias. Basically depends on maybe in my area. I want to work with others. I don't want to be the only one who's looking at the problem, because the danger is maybe the problem may not be of importance. So this I think the way to look at it is to get a lot of feedback from different community, whether it's from industry or people, so they understand whether this problem is really of value, right? Do not afraid of ambiguity in credit. People will know, right? So some people doesn't want to work with others. Always get feedback, and always watch technology trend closely to understand the impact of the problem, particularly in our area, the ICT area, 6G, the AI area. The technology trend is moving very fast, especially the industry. So having the good understanding of that is highly important, so that we solve the right problem, right? Because there's some areas they are looking at technology, have that can publish a lot of papers but may not be really useful in deployment. Right? Like, do not get feedback and do not like to be distracted by others. So these are misconception. So it's very important, right? To always to get good feedback and listen to it. Give many talks to interact with others, especially after I came back. Not just in Singapore, give talks in overseas, whether it's Europe, many places, to get feedback, interact, to polish, so that make sure the problem I'm solving is interesting. Right? So I have to get feedback. Some people don't like it. Some people only want to do it after it's complete. I have a habit of it could be half result. I just want to get feedback to do fine tuning. So do not worry that people will steal ideas if you present ongoing work. If it can be steal by the talk, then that problem is a very simple problem. Right? So I think this is so read works by others doing related works. I think learn to listen. Right? So it's very important. Getting feedback, always getting feedback from the industry and also from our own community. There's a misconception, especially when you look at the community now, especially in our area, communications, you see very complex formulation, where sometimes they see complexity which is not. Simplicity is elegant, right? It's not complexity. So always have to keep things simple, unless it's a very good reason not to. Because don't get into the trap of the system model where you see your new area, A plus B plus C plus D, where your problem formulation becomes so complicated, you're solving a very hard optimization problem, then you throw it to a neural net. So you see a lot of tons of work like that. But actually, there's no real value in that. Right? If no one can understand, how can you give feedback or contribute to your claim? Right? Don't let complexity confuse your audience, which is a bad trend now we see. So it's very important for younger generation, simplicity. And it's not a whole chunk of equation. It goes back to why you want to solve the problem. And if you can express your answer and express your result in simple form, I think that's elegant. Just like what Bob Gallagher always does. I mean, his thesis was an exponent paper. It's just a best paper award in 6 pages, right? Using auxiliary variable to look at error exponent. It's very elegant. So I think that's the type of things we want to do. Like simple is beauty, and results are much more elegant if model is simple. So I think that's always very important, especially in our age currently now. Publishing papers is equivalent to technology transfer. I think that was used to be a conception 10, 20 years ago. Right? We do this, the industry will take whatever, and it's no longer this. Right? I think it's always important now as an academia and in the future, is your result has to be understood by all these engineers and scientists, and maybe we have to take one more step to build systems and like AI community and robotics so that they can pick up or integrate. Right, promoting the ideas is important. Interact with the companies. I think now, as far as I understand, there's a lot of interaction between industry and IT, which is a very good. In Singapore, we're trying to also build that to have this interaction. This interaction is very valuable so that we get solving the right problems. Right. Papers is not about this is misconception, right? It's about quality, right? Your impact research is not directly proportional to the length of your publication list, right? It's not about it's a bad. We are in an age because a lot of people look at all this citation number, publication number. This is just a metric, but at the end of our community, we don't look at that metric to define a person whether it's high impact or not. We will know who does what. So people only remember at most 5 up to 3 your papers. You can publish tons, but just up to 5. So always important at the end of a career, what is the 5 that you want people to remember? So that could be your guideline as you build up your career. So it's always important. Implementation takes time, but unfortunately, it always has the greatest impact for any type of area. So whether you want to implement yourself or have the right collaboration partner, it could be in a colleague that can build that. Then together, I think it's important. Really, the implementation takes impact. I can give some example like dinner, got a piece from MIT. Sure. Some example. Interference alignment is a very interesting idea, right? It was very popular many years ago looking at interference scheme. But actually the impact was when they implement this in a system that can be on Wi-Fi system and publish in SIGCOMM. I think so some of these examples actually attract a lot of attention because of that, right? So if people remember a few work they have published, then you're on the right track. So especially a young career or if you're a student, always aim for that. Where you go to conferences, when people remember you, just because of you, I think you're on the right track. Always use that as a guideline, and not the numbers, right? Solve problems that can publish fast and a lot, so don't do that, right? Taste is critical. Build your taste. Taste in selecting, it goes back to selecting of right research problem. Always want to build your taste, whether it's your research philosophy, the way you select problems, or what. Everybody has a different taste, right? Research is an art, right? Finding the right taste, whether it's implementation, whether it's so try to build into that and get feedback. Always get feedback, right? To have impact, then you must first find the right problems to solve. So try to build that at an early career. So once you try and then you slowly build the taste of problem. Very important, no time and no need to exercise since I'm still young. Right? A lot of when you're young, people don't do exercise. Always keep physical fitness. I think this is one lesson I learned when I was at MIT, because there's a Charles River. Then we see some of these professors, pretty old, but they keep on running around the river. Fitness is important. So when we talk to them, they say in order to do research, fitness is important. So I do have a habit now. I run about 100 kilometers every month. So every day I run about 3 to 3.2 kilometers. So we add up it's about 100 kilometers. So do have a habit, stick to the habit, and it's important. So how do you schedule your exercise within your whole busy schedule? Physically fit helps you to stay mentally sharp. I think it's important, especially in our career. So many things going on, and reduces stress, anxiety, improves productivity. Definitely. So while even you're young, build that habit of doing exercise. So it's very important. Then you extend your research career. Right now, I'm actually involved in this future. So it's a shift when I come back after a few years, tenure. Then the government asked me to look at this 6G. Right. So what is this future comms? Let me explain. So in 2021, the background was 2018. Because of the geopolitical situation, we have this, we cannot use a particular vendor's equipment, 5G equipment. So Singapore government is worried what happens when we want to do services, the connectivity equipment, we cannot use, or we don't have this capability. So can we revamp back this future comms capability? So I was tasked to look into that, to build a program for Singapore from 2021 to next year, 2025, phase 1. So we're building a phase 2 from 2025 to 2030. So within this program, I have about $50 million to manage this program over 4 years. So of course, the easy way is I divided into a few thematic. I throw the money to all the university professors, each one do their own things. But I actually wanted to do something different. So first of all, I wanted to connect this to an ecosystem, which is at that time I was looking at Open RAN, because it's very new, 4 or 5 years ago. Was ultimately, I feel that in the future, your AI needs to come into a RAN architecture that is open, because the AI community is like that. So this could be one entry point, especially in Singapore, want to do all these services, like could be financial service that you need AI, then the RAN come. So whether you can build that capability. So the program was looking at, let's build a test bed. Then with that test bed, we facilitate free services for companies to do testing, verification. We build the whole test bed where companies come. Right, I think even there is a Open RAN RU company from India. They also send to do certification, because we do it for free. A lot of places need to charge. So that's one part. Then we craft out a lot of the use case trying to build test bed. And so overall, it's been going on for 4 years. So a few things that I've learned throughout this is we are small, we cannot compete with the big whales, right? At the beginning, the government say with that amount of money, it's very big, very small. So the whole idea is to think big. So we wanted to go into areas that are very new. New that people are trying to, it's just a whole the messy idea. Because that the open rate at the early days, people are still trying to understand, is it interoperability is a problem? How does AI come to that? So over the years, we have built some contribution into that. So we're thinking how to make it big. So that was one. We want to focus to think outside the box and start to focus on the world around us. So that's why we want to bring whatever we do into Mobile World Congress. I think Mobile World Congress usually is done by the industry. Singapore doesn't have pavilion, so our strategy is we work with industry partner, we build the demo together with them. Then the demo was shown at their booth site. So this is a way of doing publicity. And we want to shatter the status quo. So I think that's one advice I have, that we shouldn't be constrained as long as we think something big. Right, it's safer to follow what others do, so we do not need to make risky or big decision. So as a leader, it goes back, we need to have good instinct to make good decision. It goes back to the research. Right, as an earlier career, if you build that instinct to do planning and to have develop the taste of finding a right, then slowly you're able to develop this instinct of making good decision. Right, welcome all ideas to effective decision making. Learn to act and decide quick with a calculated risk. I think that's it. That's fundamentally very important, especially for us. And don't be afraid of to make mistake. I think for impact, just like doing research, right? So running a big program is the same thing. Right? Leaders must manage, and workers or team members need to deliver outcome. Right? I think as a leader, it's always important that you have to take responsibility for achieving all results. Right? So I think it's at the end it's all about results. So the planning is important. Achieving the KPI. I think this KPI is for Singapore. We also always have this key performance indicator. I don't know whether India you do that. You do that. We are very good at doing that. Checking you whether you achieve all this is a way for so for audit and so on. So I think it's always developing people, right? Just like in a research group, in your big team also, team members is not a vessel. You have to develop them so that they become integrated part. Right? I think this is my last slide. Right? I think overall what I have learned throughout my career, even this program when it started, I have no idea this open RAN will work or not. Whether my operator will adopt it, which they have not adopted until 4 years later when they do the first trial. So always you have to, you don't need to see the whole staircase, but you need to take the first step. But in order to take the first step, you need to build that sense and intuition. And it goes back from the early days of graduate students, and you build. Once you build that, you help you subsequently as a faculty, or you go to a company or go startup. So that's, I just want to share what I've gone through. Some of these are very biased towards my research area and my style. It may not be applied to every, so I just want to clarify. Right. With that, I end my sharing and open for any questions. Thank you.
Maybe I'll begin by asking. You wrote about. Is that okay? Yeah. You said that only 5 papers are important. What about books? You don't want anybody to write a textbook? Never mind.
Books also can. I mean, you think about Alan Wilsky, they have very good books.
Anyway, that was just by the way. Anybody else have any questions to Dr. Quek about his experiences and not on? It's on, I think. Yeah. Why don't you speak a little loudly? Because I don't think this is going through.
Basically, I'm a BTech student. I'm a final year BTech
Pete.
undergraduate student.
Okay.
I don't know whether I want to do a PhD or not. I'm
Okay.
interested in research. I work at the professors here, but I'm not sure whether I want to like do a PhD or not.
Okay.
What is the best way for me right now? Do I do a master's or do I work in a program which has a researching favor?
So for undergrad, do you have these undergrad research opportunities here? You have,
Oh,
right?
plenty.
I'm working under professors
Correct.
here actively.
And I think one advice for a lot of students I tell them for undergrad research opportunities is work across different topics. Don't stay into one, right? You try as much so that you understand what you like or not, right? I think that's one way. Whether you want to do research also depends on your character and your career, right? Why do I want to do a PhD? In a sense that what is your projection of a career? Are you going to plan to go to academia or are you going to do, so it also depends on your career path and your research area. Because some of this research area, the career path is totally different, right? So there's no really rule of thumb, but I think you have to try different things so that you understand what you like or not.
Any other questions from anybody else?
Hi, I'm Priya. I'm a master's student over here. And I just wanted to ask, were you always sure that you wanted to do a PhD in the first place?
Okay.
And following up, what were the factors that led you to do a PhD at MIT and how did you get selected?
Okay.
I'm just interested in that.
Oh, okay. I see. So I did undergrad research when I was Tokyo Tech. So my advisor was in. So I chose my advisor because he came from an operator, the largest operator in Japan called NTT Docomo. He was one of them who invented the equalizer for the PDC, the second generation MLSE equalizer for. So he's one of these inventors to bring into that thing. So I was thinking it's interesting. So I did a bachelor thesis with him on looking at developing the 3G handphone receiver. Unfortunately, the receiver did not get into the standard. So I also learned about standard at that time. It's not so simple. I continued to do a master's with him in order to see whether I'm interested in this area. So I was very interested in this mobile communication at that time because that was at the beginning. I was thinking that if these things have a much higher rate, my analogy is like that because if you think about communication, it's just like a vehicle. If I have a bicycle, I can only ride a certain speed. If I go to a Porsche or much bigger, the speed is higher. So I can, so I have a higher speed like an aeroplane. I can actually convey more information. So I was thinking about if I can do that, what are the new applications? So I was thinking, oh, this should be an interesting area, right? So I was thinking, then I should do PhD. Then it goes to why MIT and not Japan. I can continue there. It goes back to the same code. Because I'm too comfortable, I will only do the same thing. So I realized that there's a danger, and also because of the way Japanese did research, a lot of times they apply. They will say that I'm going to improve epsilon on things that's been done. Then somehow I feel that there's going to have a bottleneck. You have to change structurally new things of doing things. Then, as you know, a lot of US schools, where is Berkeley, Stanford, or even MIT, a lot of new innovation comes from there. So I applied a few schools. Actually, I got accepted at MIT with Vahid Tarok. Because at the time he was doing space-time coding. Unfortunately, he moved to Harvard. Right, at the time he got me and said, "Do you want to go to Harvard?" I said no. Why should I go to Harvard to do engineering? I mean for my area. So I stayed at MIT. How do you get in? I don't know what is the way they select. But I think one thing is they look at your experience. I think they were looking at why you're going through the Japanese experience. What have you done? I think the whole experience is not about grade. things a lot of times are real. I work in a lab. I play with a 2G, 3G handphone. I think the experience. I think my generation a bit different. Now, for your generation, there's so much, so hackathon, there's a lot of things that you can make your package very competitive. It's much more challenging for your generation because everybody is doing this. But it goes back to what is your unique feature, right? What is your unique feature compared to others? Always think about that. You go back, what is my taste? So that people can pick me, right? So develop that so their overall package will be good. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Anybody else have any questions? Anyway, so if there are no further questions, let's thank Dr. Quek again.
Thank you.
And there is
Thank you.
for a wonderful seminar.
Thank you.
I think we have a small memento from the Institute. Thank you for very much for coming. all the
Thank
way.
you. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, this is not done till they say yes. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
again.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
So there's some tea and coffee outside and a few snacks, I presume. Enjoy them. Thank you for coming. Thank you.
I can pass you the USB. You need a slide, is it?
There.
You have USB?
You don't have it here.